Well, here we are on our 10 from the Nations prayer and update from Israel with Rabbi Ken Spiro. Ken, it's good to see you again. What does the world look like from where you sit in Jerusalem, right?
Yeah, I'm in the center of town in Jerusalem. Yes, we're right in the action. What does it look like? It looks a little scary at the moment. Not just because what's going on here, but I made the mistake of going on X, also known as Twitter, and watching the massive, rapidly anti-Semitic rallies taking place all over the world. That's scarier than what's going on here, in my opinion, because it seems like evil has reared its ugly head, and there's a lot of people who are just very misguided supporting it. So that was actually quite terrifying. But yeah, it's very intense. I've been here for almost 42 years. So I've lived through a lot of things in this country, lots of missile attacks going back to the Gulf War in like 1990. And I've had kids I was in the army, my kids, I have a son who's been mobilized. He's actually a nurse, and now he's a combat medic. And my son-in-law is also flew back from Canada. He was there with my daughter. Got on the first plane on Saturday night a week ago, and one of the last planes to get back so he could join his unit, because that's what everyone does here. So in that sense, personally, it's emotionally, very scary, because there's going to be a ground attack into Gaza soon, and it's a scary place to be. I've had both my sons have been in previously in 2008, 2009. And in 2014, they were both in Gaza for extended periods of time. So thank God they made it out. And this is kind of scary. So in that sense, a combination of direct personal involvement, combination of what happened a week ago Saturday was absolutely mind-blowingly evil. The fact that people in America, I was watching all these people denying didn't happen. No babies were killed. Hamas was offering people food. I saw this idiot girl saying Hamas militants came into a house of a Jew and asked the woman, can she please take a banana? Can he please take a banana? I mean, the insanity is just unbelievable. That was very shocking to all of us. But we've lived through a lot here. What we saw a week ago was unprecedented in a level of cruelty. And so it's a combination of a lot going on. The country mobilized a lot of people. Everything gets very quiet and very serious here. Like the first few days, it was like no stores open. Still today, there's no restaurants open. There's no bars. No one's going to the movies. It's, Israel's a teeny country. I'm sure you've heard people been broadcasting, to have 1,300 Israelis killed in a little country proportionally is the equivalent of something like 46,000 Americans killed in a terrorist attack, which is like a lot of 9/11s. And everyone knows people here. I know at least half a dozen boys who've died since I've been here. And I just lost I went to a funeral on Sunday night of a guy. He's now a man, but I know him since he's 9 years old. I'm friends of his father's. He's the commander of he was the commander of the Nahal Brigade, who was killed in Gaza, father of 6, 42 years old now. And I used to live in the old city. My next door neighbor, she actually died of cancer a number of years ago. Her son was killed at that music festival. So it's very personal here. Like Memorial Day is a heavy thing in Israel in general, and now everyone knows someone who's been killed or injured. So it's America's a big country. Most people don't know people who have. Memorial Day is a shopping day. Not to belittle the sacrifices Americans made, but far more proportionally, Israelis have died fighting in Israel's wars than all the wars America's fought, by twice as much, since World War I included. So it's heavy. It's heavy stuff. So not to depress anyone. God runs the world, and we've outlasted everyone. I just posted my T-shirt up on my Instagram and my Facebook pages. I made a T-shirt that it says civilizations, nations, and empires that have tried to destroy the Jewish people and their status today. And as Philistines gone, Assyrian, Babylonian, Persian, Greek, Roman, Byzantine empires gone, Nazi Germany gone, Soviet Union gone, here, Iran with 3 question marks. And it says at the bottom, the Jewish people, the smallest of nations with a friend in the highest of places, so be nice. So actually last Gaza war, 2014, someone took my shirt, put it online, and added below Iran with a question mark, Hamas, work in progress. So this hopefully will be we'll finish the work this time. So you gotta have a lot of faith, and you gotta look at history to recognize that, you know, we're still here and we'll outlast everyone. But it doesn't mean we don't go through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And to see, you know, less than 80 years after World War II is over, people in Sydney, Australia, you know, Sunday, the day after it happened, screaming "Gas the Jews" outside the Sydney Opera House is pretty mind-blowing, because it just, after the initial facade of screaming about what we're doing to the Palestinians, it immediately, you know, you take the mask off and you see that most of it is just rabidly violent anti-Semitism. And that's the scariest part of all of it, to see that the more things change, the more they stay the same, and that we just can't escape this. And that Israel bashing is the kind of the last form that anti-Semitism is taking in human history. That's Gog and Magog and Ezekiel and Zechariah and Zechariah. You know, the nations of the world come together. It may not be the literal description as described in the Bible of like chariots and horses, but you know, the theme is really there, that there's only a few people standing between us and complete political isolation in the world. The United States government, unfortunately, a lot of American university campuses seem to be completely lost. But if it wasn't for the U.S., Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, the pro-Israel evangelical Christian community, which, you know, happened just been here on Sukkot, you know, Feast of the Tabernacles, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem had their big parade. There's not a lot of people standing up, but we really appreciate those of you who do. So I'm kind of just like letting it all out, and it's like a therapy session for me, but you guys get it. It's very, very, very heavy to be here, you know? So, but like I said, thank God. I don't know how people who don't believe in God live in Israel, to be honest. I don't understand how they do it. But when you do, and I'm a historian and a rabbi, so I have the long view. So it's clear that we're being watched out for by the big guy upstairs, but it doesn't mean we are, on a collective level, we'll outlast them all, but it doesn't mean we don't go through a lot of pain until we get there. And a lot of Jews have lost their lives throughout history for their faith. Only a very small percentage is still around, like the Marines. Remember the proud, the Marines that commercial used to have in America?
Yeah.
I always tell my students, if you're Jewish today and living and standing in Jerusalem, reunited in Israel, rebuilt as a country after 2,000 years of exile, having survived the Holocaust and everything else that happened in between, it's literally living proof of the supernatural. So on one hand, it's inspiring, and I got to dig deep and pull that out of me, faith and history, and to get the strength to do it. But thank God, we're still here, and we'll outlast them all. We'll get through it. The next few weeks are going to be really, really rough. The trick is when you're here, not to just be watching the news 24/7. If you're going to watch the news, you watch Fox, because Fox News, thank God, is unabashedly pro-Israel. But unfortunately, it's going to be a very difficult fight, and it's very scary.
Yeah.
So,
well, Ken, speaking also as a historian, and I suppose as a pastor, I did get ordained. Yeah, I take the long view as well. And I was just talking about, I remember what Mordecai was saying to Esther when this same kind of spirit, same kind of threat wanted to annihilate the Jewish people for the same reasons. That, deliverance will arise for the Jewish people from somewhere. And essentially saying the question is, do you want to be part of that deliverance or not? That's the choice that all of us out here in the nations, especially all of us Christians who understand that our fates, our eternal destinies are intertwined with Israel, with the Jewish people. That's the choice we are now acquainted with. And our job, I think, for those of us on this call and our friends and family, our job is to help our brothers and sisters understand this so that you guys are not standing alone. You're just on the front lines. You're defending all the rest of us, because that's Israel's call, is to be an intercessor for all the nations and to proclaim righteousness to all the nations. So, you're being called to up your game now, and so are we. So how can we do that?
Well, first of all, you pointed to some really interesting things. Number one, I always say every cloud has a silver lining.
Mhm.
And one thing we, the Jewish people, know in the state of Israel know, when the smoke clears and redemption comes, we're going to know who our friends are. Because when we get to that end of days, everyone's going to suddenly be, oh, we always loved Israel and the Jewish people, we're going to know exactly who really loved us and those people who stood by us, which is why I really appreciate you guys, because it's definitely the minority. And also you point out being in the front lines, because it's not the real struggle. It's become so clear to me. You see the incredible, insane intersectional combination of the radical left and Islamofascism on the other side. What does an LBGTQ plus minus whatever person have in common with an Islamist? Zero. If those people ended up in Iran, they would be hanging from cranes. They literally would be killing them. But the one thing that seems to unite them is we hate the Jewish people. We hate Israel. But what's behind that is really the issue you're pointing to, in my opinion. What really is going on here is the struggle for truth and reality. Because, the word for truth in Hebrew is emet. And we say that anything that comes from God on a physical or metaphysical level is truth. Okay, whether it deals with science, theology, it cannot be. God cannot be in any way a falsehood. So reality, whether it's what economic systems work, what moral systems work, it's all what values work. It has to be the values that come from God. Otherwise, it's a failure, and it's also evil. And you can see what combines those things together is that they're all based on lies and insanity. And it seems to be the insanity, the lies, and ultimately the evil, even though a lot of these people, by the way, evil people never think they're evil. They always think they're good. Good people think I'm trying hard to be good. Evil people know they're good. H.L. Mencken, the writer from over 100 years ago, he said that the urge to rule, here it said the urge to fix the world is almost always a false face to rule it. And when we recognize that there's only one being that rules the world, the universe is God, and to the extent that a human being is connected to wanting to live with the reality of God and the wisdom and the values that he gave us, is to the extent that you're standing on that side. So, which is why we're on the same side of the struggle. We can agree to disagree on a few things theological, but we got a lot in common, a heck of a lot more in common than what's going on in Harvard University today. So that is really the battle that's coming out. So when you're talking about like being in the front lines, evil comes to the world that targets the Jewish people first. It's one of the great, all the things that people believe about us, that we poison wells, we're in league with the devil, we brought the Black Death to Europe, we control the world's economy, seismic activity, solar flares, the entertainment business, we trigger tsunamis in Southeast Asia to drown Indonesia with tidal waves, release sharks into the Red Sea to destroy Egyptian tourism, we send vultures to spy on Saudi Arabia, we steal Iran's cloud cover, we have a space laser. People may believe that stuff, but ultimately, what anti-Semitism is always about is on the deepest, even subconscious level for many people, it's a rebellion against the national historic mission of the Jewish people to bring relationship with God into the world. And you have to have that clarity. You have to have that clarity. It's because that's really what it's coming down to in the world. It's becoming so clear to me. I've never seen people who are so blind and so wrong be so sure they're so right as when you turn on TV today and watch people screaming at these rallies. Not since World War II have I seen evil so clearly obvious, yet people so unable to see it in the world. The stupid idiot. I just wanted to slap her. I wish I could go through my screen and talking about how there was no babies killed and it's all like Israeli propaganda and like going on and on and on. Like, what are you talking about? But it's the inability to live reality is a very scary thing. And the ability to live with truth and reality, which is ultimately the relationship with God, is the number one battle we're fighting in the world today. So when you say we're in the front line of it, really, there's a German, the German philosopher Niemöller had that great quote about in World War II, when they came for the socialists, I didn't protest because I wasn't a socialist. When they came for the Jews, I didn't protest because I wasn't a Jew. When they came for the whatever. And then so when they came for me, there was no one left to protest. And that is really what's the scariest part. It's becoming so clear to me. I'm sure you guys all see it. Anyone who believes there's a God who runs the world and there's right and wrong and good and evil, it's so unbelievably clear to me that we're coming to a head here. We're really reaching point here, and it's like so unambiguous. It used to be like you could argue.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen something so obvious that so many people so blind to it in the world. So we're really fighting that same struggle of whether we're going to line up behind absolute values that come from the infinite creator of the universe and build a world based on the morality and values that come from God, or whether we're going to just descend to darkness and insanity and go back to being a bunch of, you know, wild pagans, which is what a lot of people in the world seem to be wanting to do, with no boundaries and no borders. You have to be open to everything except the person who's not open to everything. And any person of faith is not open to everything. The worst thing you could say to someone who's liberal today is, sorry, you're wrong. Oh my God, you know, Jewish people, we've been telling the world since Abraham that there's truths in there, like that you're wrong. I'm sorry. The whole world can be worshiping idols, but you're all wrong. Reality is not a popularity contest. And for those of us who are in the minority, who are willing to live with, you know, and stand for truths regardless of consequences, that's the real struggle. That's the frontline struggle in the world. And we're all lining up in that. And that's really, and the problem with radical Islam, there's plenty of Muslims who are really nice people, but because they don't have the Bible, you know, they have the word God, but they don't have the Bible, and they don't have that system that gives them the values. I'm sorry, they just don't have it. And they're giving God a really bad name, the worst name I could think of anyone. As much as the evil things were done by the church, medieval church, and what they did in colonizing America in the name of Jesus, which wasn't what Jesus wanted, I'm sure. There's no question what is being done in the name of Allah today is absolute evil. It's the antithesis of what God really wants in the world, and that's the saddest part of all of this.
Yeah.
But by the way, to answer your question, because I really kind of just want to know, I'm just like letting off steam here. But to answer, what can you do? I mean, I think it's really obvious what we need to do, what everyone needs to do. First of all, you know, we have to have recognition we have to have clarity as to what we're fighting for here. It's not the differences between you guys and me. It's a much bigger issue. And we have to line up. And since Israel is the point of the spear, you have to be supporting Israel and the Jewish people. Have to stand up for, you know, against anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism is ultimately a rebellion against God, and Israel bashing is ultimately the same thing. And whether that means you have no idea how many people are writing me, what can I do? What can I do? Like a lot of my Jewish friends or family, like they feel terrible. They're all, we say in Yiddish, they're on spielkas. They're all like freaking out because they feel like they're hopeless and they can't do anything. I said, you can do lots. First of all, write your politicians, write your congressmen, write the White House, you know, correct the mistakes made in the news, write to newspapers, show up at rallies. Don't let, you know, like Edmund Burke, the Irish parliamentarian who defended America during the American Revolutionary War in England. He said, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Don't be silent. Do whatever you can do. Everyone has, you know, we're all unique. We all have abilities to impact the world. Some of us have financial resources, you know, donate money to whatever. People, I've given so many links to different causes, helping the people whose communities were destroyed, getting IDF. I have a son who's about to go into Gaza, who doesn't have a bulletproof vest because they mobilized so many soldiers. They have over 360,000 soldiers. They don't have enough equipment in the Israeli army for everyone. It's not America. We don't have the biggest defense budget in the world. There's so many things that we can do. The most important thing is just not to be passive about it and say, what can I do? Because when we stand before God, he's going to ask us, you know, in our lives, do we use our unique potential to be the greatest we could be? Did we stand up and fight when we could, or did we sit back and watch it happen, which makes us complicit by default, which is not your guys' problem, I know.
Amen. Well, there is so much to do, so much we can do. And you know, not the least is being an advocate for the Jewish state and the Jewish people. So that's what we're trying to do. Let me just ask if anyone on the call here has questions for Ken.
Ken, I have a question. I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here. I don't know if maybe get into some waters I shouldn't. I don't know, but I don't really care right now. Anissa and I just returned from Israel yesterday. And after what happened on Saturday occurred, and we started to become aware of the severity of everything, it was very, very difficult for myself to leave. But through some advice of some very close, dear friends, I came on back home to some responsibilities here. But I am very curious because I was so torn and had such a driving desire to stay there with the people and, if at all possible, fight side by side. At this point in time, is Israel taking, or the idea of taking, any volunteers to enter into the fight? Is that one option for those who want to be a part of defending Israel?
They're only taking Israeli citizens. You can't, it's not a Jewish, non-Jewish thing. They're taking reservists. Well, I know people who are like finished with their army service are no longer in combat units. My son, one of them, he was a sniper and a medic in the paratroopers. And after 10 years of his reserve duty, he wanted to get to a little easier unit. So he's in a training unit that does for the paratroopers. And as soon as the war broke out, he immediately tried to re-enlist in his own unit, and they wouldn't take him.
Oh.
So yeah, but there's people coming in doing lots of stuff. A lot of people I know, even here, a lot of people want, like, I did the army late, and I did only 12 years of reserve duty, and I haven't been in the military in like 20 years now. And I'm doing what I can, which is with my words is my power. Speaking and organizing, do whatever I can that way. But a lot of my friends have like run down to the area around Gaza to help with stuff, to bring food to soldiers, to help clean up these communities, to invite people. They've cleared out all these 22 communities were emptied out of people. Sderot, which is a pretty large size community, they emptied everyone out of it. So they're hosting people in their houses. So yeah, you can't come and fight. If you wanted to come back, there's stuff you could probably do, but in my opinion, it's not the rear lines. America's the front line too. America is the frontline ally. The only thing really, bottom line, keeping Israel from complete political isolation in the world. And I have to say, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a pretty conservative guy, but I was very pleased with Joe Biden's words.
Yeah.
I thought he spoke beautifully and very unequivocally. And that's what's needed. So I think the real front line for you guys was just as much a front line, because we're dealing with we have to be the point of the spear, but that blade is long. There's a big struggle going on in the world. I'm much more scared about what's going to happen in America now. I think you're going to see massive explosions of anti-Jewish violence in the United States, and tremendous attempts to really try and undermine the support that America has for Israel, which is absolutely, critical. God runs the world, and, ultimately that's what we got to rely on. But still, you're not supposed to rely on miracles. When Jacob goes to confront Esau, he doesn't just pray. He follows his three-pronged strategy there. We got to always remember, he prepares for war. He follows his negotiating initiative, send my brother gifts, but he prays to God. But you got to do all three. So I think for you guys personally, I think we're in good shape militarily. I mean, obviously pressing the U.S. to resupply Israel with wherever we're burning through. God knows Ukraine has burned through enough U.S. munitions. We could use a little bit too. But that's what I would be doing if I would advise people what they should be doing in America, is go full court press on anything and everything you can do. Political pressure, standing up, showing to rallies, coming out in support for Jews. It's scary. I'm hearing from my friends that their kids on university campus are literally afraid for their life. People painting, showing up in Sieg Heilig, painting Jewish stars on doors and things like the Nazis did in 1933. It's going to just come out of the woodwork. And the Muslims in America, a lot of them are really scary. And that they're uniting with the hard left and the hard right is a scary thing. So yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what you could do. Definitely what you could do.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just want to interject now that right now, the nations, 10 from the nations is doing quite a bit. We were able to deliver drones down all through southern Hebron area yesterday, down in Maon, down in Gush Etzion, and quite a few other places. Today, we took a van load of groceries down to the Dead Sea, where many of the people from Sderot and Ashkelon and other people are escaping to. It's a place where they can go get their feet back on get back on their feet and get to other communities. We also are buying radios and other equipment and delivering them up in Itamar and some of the different communities up here Shomron. So the group right here is trying to engage as much as we can. And I would just encourage everybody that there are ways you can get engaged, just like Ken said. And I want to let you know you're not alone.
Yeah,
There's been a change right now. And for the first time, as far as I know in history, there are hopefully millions and millions of Christians around the world that are standing strong with Israel, the Jewish people, and the veil is starting to come off of our eyes. And I pray that we would become a blessing.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. That's the one thing I really want to say. We really appreciate when you see so much hate and evil, and they're always better organized. It never succeeds. Like I said, only truth ultimately works. Whether it's, you know, an economic system, a political system, only what is based on truth and reality ever works. So they'll fail eventually, but we don't, you know, how much pain do we have to go through to get to the finish line? But really, really, we so appreciate all you guys support. It means so much in a world that seems to be lining up against us, and the evil's just coming out of the closet and full blown. So really wanted to thank you very, very much for anything you can do. Is going to be greatly appreciated by the Jewish people and by the Jewish state. And you got to all come back when it gets quiet again, because that's the best thing. We'll do some recording.
You have to lead the next tour. What are you talking about?
Of course, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Laura's got her hand up.
Okay, there's two things that we can do right now to stand with and support Israel and the Jewish people. One is we can donate. And I went to 4 different organizations, my 4 favorite organizations. CFIJerusalem.org now has an emergency fundraising campaign going, and they are actively outreaching to the IDF and bringing them much needed equipment. So you can go to CFIJerusalem.org and donate there. And then also we have Israel365.com with Tuli Weiss, and they also have an emergency fund. And I trust that organization. I know they're going to get the funds out to the Jewish people, to the communities where it's most needed. So that's Israel365.com. Then we have Hayovel.com. They have an emergency fundraising also, and that's going to bless and help the communities, the farmers in the biblical heartland of Shomron. And then finally, the 4th one eludes my memory. Okay, so the second thing that we can do that's very, very important, I'm going to refer
Laura,
to Reese Howells. And there's a wonderful book.
Hey, Laura, how about
prayer?
How about 9-av.com? That might be the 4th one.
Oh, that's it. That's at 9-av.com. You can also donate there. And again, the funds will get to Israeli small farmers and to the communities in the heartland of Israel. Okay, so Reese Howells, during World War II, he had a small. So let me just finish, if I may. Every day they would meet for some time to pray, and in the book it talks about one particular night they prayed all night, and there was a battle going on during World War II on the shores of Italy. They were trying to land on the coastline of Italy against Mussolini and establish a beachhead there, and they prayed all night until the burden of prayer lifted. And then finally the burden lifted, and in the morning they read the news headlines that what had happened in that battle while they were praying, the Germans were up on the hill shooting at the Allies that were landing on the beach, and all of a sudden, for no reason, the Germans dropped their guns and went back to camp. There was no explanation, and so the Allies were able to establish a beachhead. So it's so important. Our prayers matter. God hears the prayers, and we need to stand behind Israel and the IDF in our prayers. So connect with prayer groups. There's this group here. There's altarofprayer.com. There's the wall of prayer that CFI puts out there. So connect, and pray regularly, daily, for Israel and for the IDF and for because there's a moral clarity here. This is good versus evil. This is absolutely heinous evil. This is the spirit of Amalek. And we need to stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters, covering them in prayer and covering them and asking the Lord for victory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, please go.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about what's going on with both Hayavel and Nations Ninth of Av. Is there's a lot of funding and a lot of things going for the IDF, a lot of things going humanitarian. There are two organizations out here that are actually working in Judea and Samaria with the yeshuvs, the small communities. We have about 200 communities out here, 500,000 people, and probably about 2.5 million, and that includes East Jerusalem, about 2.5 million Arabs here. Right here, we're on Har Bracha, about 2,500 people up there in Bracha, and about 250,000 to 300,000 Arabs right down the hill from us. We have between Har Bracha, Itamar, Elan Murray, and other community, Yitzhar, we have less than 10,000 people, vastly outnumbered. And we are out here kind of isolated. I would encourage you to go to Hayavel and donate, invest, go to Nations Ninth of Av and invest. These are the places that are on the front lines. And so I'm just saying this is my heart.
It's the problem with Har Bracha, not the best internet connection.
But the spiritual connection. How about
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. He's in a holy place.
Yeah.
Him. That's where all the action takes place. I didn't realize he was actually there. That's interesting. I had no idea that he was there.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys because I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure joining. I'm sorry I came on late. I literally was so distracted. There's so much going on. I can't keep track. Plus, I had a daughter who had her first kid on. In the middle of all the bad news, she just had a baby yesterday. So thank God.
Congratulations.
There's always some good news. There's always,
yes.
But anyway, God bless you all. Really, really appreciate it. And we should have peace soon. We should have an end to the conflict. We should be able to have victory over our very evil enemies. And you guys should be able to, life should return to normal. And you guys should be able to come back and visit them. And I should be able to take you on a tour.
Amen. Amen. May it be very soon, Rabbi Ken. Thank you so much.
Take care. All the
Absolutely.
best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye-bye.